समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है, अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
It has been one hell of a year for India and for the Modi government. It's been a year when we've seen a terror attack, we've seen military conflict with Pakistan, we have seen a geopolitical and economic challenge in the form of Trump's 50% tariffs. We've seen an Air India crash. We have an imminent election coming up in Bihar. And the time has come to ask, what is the mood of the nation? What does the biannual See Voter India Today Mood of the Nation survey say about domestic politics, international affairs, the economy, and who would win if elections were held today? In a moment from now, we'll be joined by See Voters Yashwant Deshmukh. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo Story. Where does brand Modi stand after 11 years in power? In his third term since 2024, has Modi gained or has the brand chipped away a little? This is the Prime Minister faces unexpected geopolitical challenges and a churning of the world order. The images that you see on your screen out of China have been at least partially a response to what Donald Trump imposed and inflicted on India. A 50% tariff, 25% of which are purportedly punishment for India purchasing oil from Russia. Modi has gone so far as to say he's ready to pay a personal price, but India will not bend. And the Mood of the Nation survey finds that the country is firmly behind the Prime Minister on this stand, even across political and ideological affiliations. But there are other questions that are raising creeping challenges or at least signals for the Modi government. While brand Modi continues to be miles ahead of brand Rahul Gandhi, according to the Mood of the Nation survey, there are at least, according to Yashwant Deshmukh, 7 signals that the voters are sending to the Prime Minister and to the Modi government. In a moment from now, we'll be finding out exactly what those signals are. As I said, from Operation Sindoor to Trump tariffs, we're going to find out what the voters are trying to say to the Prime Minister and to the government. Let's bring up our newsmaker today. Yashwant Deshmukh is with us. Yashwant, it's always a pleasure to have our favorite political pundit with us. This has been a particularly interesting Mood of the Nation survey, not to say that the previous ones haven't, but the backdrop in which it's coming is very, very eventful. And I want to actually start with domestic politics because, you know, there's a lot to talk about: domestic politics, the economy, geopolitics, and what would happen if elections were held today. Now, what you find is that the brand of the Prime Minister, even after 11 years, remains strong, even though there are slight beginnings and roots of anti-incumbency. Take it away. Let's start with brand Modi, where he stands vis-a-vis both Rahul Gandhi, who's clearly now his lead opponent in the public imagination, as well as historically vis-a-vis other political leaders. Yashwant.
So exactly a year back, Barkha, when we were talking about the last year's Lok Sabha election and the shocker that came in that BJP lost its own majority and it had to rely on the partners, we had thought that the tough times have set in. But then we witnessed Haryana and Maharashtra Lok Sabha elections and the sweeps that occurred over there, purely based on the organizational strength of the bench strength of the BJP. And the numbers of Narendra Modi didn't go down. And after that, when Operation Sindoor happened, taking a cue from Balakot thing, we were expecting that, okay, now this will take, give a huge spike to all the ratings and everything that government is standing for. But that spike was not visible. However, Mr. Modi's personal rating retained. Honestly speaking, I was expecting this number to 62, not 52. I mean, that kind of a jump, if I was expecting a post-Balakot kind of a surge. But when, and the numbers kind of, yes, there is a very clear thing that baseline of Mr. Modi's brand is 50%. The baseline of Mr. Rahul Gandhi's brand is 25%. On a lowest possible side after the second wave of COVID, Mr. Modi went up to 46, but never again he was been ever below 50. On the lower end, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has gone to 20, but never below 20, but never higher than 25 as well. So that's the range that we are looking at. And give or take at any point of time, Barkha, you will realize that Mr. Modi is 1:2 ratio as far as personal popularity is concerned and the ratings are concerned. However, having said that, we also looked into the tracker and the MOTN number at the post-Balakot strike phenomena. And at that point of time, and in our tracker, what we compared that two things: how big were the spikes and how long did sustain. Now, during right after Balakot, the spike was approximately 15% across the ratings for the government, from Mr. Modi, for everything else. And that sustained for almost like 4.5 months.
Yeah.
Now compare that to the post-Sindoor spike. That spike came only about 5% and it did not even sustain 4.5 weeks. So, and ironically, arguably, I mean, from the military's perspective, and you know it better than any other journalist in India, I believe personally that the impact of Operation Sindoor was 100 times bigger than
I agree.
You know, so why that didn't happen? And that answer lies probably in all the snap polls and the trackers after the Operation Sindoor that we carried out, the abrupt halt or the ceasefire that people were upset with. They thought that, you know, pura theek se badla nahi liya gaya, and that kind of thing.
So I'm going to interrupt you just briefly, because in a way what you're saying two things. You're saying the kind of surge in the Prime Minister's popularity that we saw after Balakot, you have not seen in this Mood of the Nation survey. But you are saying that there was a brief surge in the immediate aftermath of Operation Sindoor, but it didn't sustain and it wasn't the kind of spike that we saw after Balakot. And you're offering one reason is the way the halt in hostilities came. One, Trump announced it before India could, setting into motion a series of sort of chaotic geopolitical moments. The other is, if you remember the 10th of May, when Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri comes out and he says, we got a call from the Pakistan DGMO and, we have agreed to halt hostilities. The people angriest at that time, if you take social media as a cue, were the BJP's own voters.
Yeah. And I think when after a few years down the lane, when we look back at these times, these turbulent times, and the data that has become history of that point of time by all this data, that's the job of doing the surveys as well. We would realize that probably, Barkha, more than Trump, what has damaged is the circus that was going around in the television studios at that point of time. I think the expectations were raised to such an unrealistic levels that even the best of the operation of our army started at that point of time looking like inadequate. However, over a period of time, now when we ask this question after a few months down the lane, majority of the people say that yes, the military response was strong and adequate, yet it should have been sustained more. So question mark here is not whether what the Indian army responded was weak. No, people say the army's response was amazing, good, but why did we stop? And that
can we look at some of these figures from the Mood of the Nation Sea Voter survey? So Op Sindoor, 55% of respondents did believe that it was a strong response, not just adequate, but a strong response. But in the question, when you ask, why did the hostilities stop? If we can just go to that slide, and you said, was it pressure from Trump or did Modi decide on his own? While a majority of people do say that it was Modi who decided on his own, What is important is that 29% of people say that it was pressure from Trump. Of course, Pakistan's request, please go back to that slide. Pakistan's request is also a big figure. So that matters. So 25 plus 31, a large majority of people feel that it was either request from Pakistan or the Prime Minister's own decision. But still, you have, hitting 30% who believe Trump ka pressure worked. Talk about this figure.
And by the way, this figure, many people, many of the audience and viewers might feel like, oh, itne to opposition ke vote hai, na? 30% will always say.
Yeah.
It's not like that. That 30% approximately is actually equally split, Barkha, between the opposition voters and the NDA voters.
Interesting.
That's the classical part of it. And you remember one of the tracker polls that we were doing about the disappointment of the ceasefire, I had mentioned at that point of time that majority of the disappointed people are actually from the BJP camp. Because they were expecting more. It's Dil Mange more was coming from them, not from the opposition side. So, I mean, these are the things. However, having said that, Barkha, all said and done, if these were the normal times or whichever times, I must say this, because as a pollster, that's also my job to underline this point. 11 years in power, incumbency, and a person is still floating above 50% of popularity rating and approval rating. It's remarkable, unheard of, neither in India nor at this point of time, whichever way internationally also from other world leaders, if you want to compare that itself is no less than a miracle. I would say that, yes, Mr. Modi remains at the number one. It is all this criticism or all these, postmortem and data analytics it's like judging somebody who is, getting honors mark, and one of the times the guy is getting a first class marks, and we are being too critical of him that why that person is not getting good enough marks that he is so used to. So yes, 11 years of fatigue is a real thing. That starts getting in, it's the real thing. But it's not getting to that level where that fatigue is making other person buoyant to pick up the ratings and like that. For that matter, say if you look into the approval rating of the Prime Minister or the approval rating of NDA government, there is a 10-point drop between January poll and the current poll. 10-point drop of the NDA approval ratings. 7-point drop in approval rating of Prime Minister. But what's odd, that 7-point or 10-point drop is not swinging in opposition favor, not swinging in Rahul Gandhi's favor. It's not showing that kind of a jump on the other side, which means what? That drop is more of a disappointed, sitting idle, don't know, can't say kind of a thing. But that is not a swing vote. What's happening is that this MOTN, Barkha, is defining or indicating the trouble areas for the NDA and Prime Minister Modi's. But it's definitely not showing something which opposition or Rahul Gandhi should get super excited about.
So I think what you're saying is that they might, and we saw, by the way, a little bit of this in 2024. You're saying that there might be some disappointment, some points of irritation with the government, but they don't translate into an advantage at the moment for the opposition.
Right.
Is that correct? And so you may have some, so if there were an election today, there may be people who choose to sit at home. And we'll come to what would happen if an election were held today. But I want to pick up some of the points on the opposition. You asked whether the India bloc should continue. And I found that response quite interesting because a lot of us, journalists, political pundits, we say, oh, India bloc, kabhi hai, kabhi nahi hai. But 63% of your respondents felt that it should continue. People want an opposition.
Absolutely. Not just an opposition. People want a strong opposition. An opposition which keeps the government on the toes. That's what people want. And again, oddly enough, if any of the audience is kind of misconstructing that, okay, 63%, that means opposition vote. No, I'm sorry. That 63% actually includes, Barkha, big number of BJP voters as well, NDA supporters as well. Because, and I check this with my researchers, that, okay, when NDA supporters say that we need a stronger opposition, we India bloc should continue, and even on the follow-up questions of who should be leading that India bloc. There is a very good clarity that Congress is in the center of the India bloc and Rahul Gandhi is in the center of that Congress.
And if you look at the numbers on the screen, Rahul Gandhi is clearly, whether he's named as a PM candidate or not, he is clearly the opposition leader.
Absolutely. Within the opposition rank and file, the huge majority of them are polarized for Rahul Gandhi that, okay, he is the leader, he is the one where no other person. Mamata Banerjee, remember at one point of time, she was reached almost 12%. Arvind Kejriwal at one point of time was almost touching 15%, in the ratings at the national level. But all those numbers have collapsed. And Rahul Gandhi has taken the center stage. And credit where due that he has been, particularly after becoming leader of opposition, he has been performing consistently inside the parliament and outside parliament as well.
So explain this. So Rahul Gandhi has emerged as an undisputed opposition face. So within the opposition leaders, he is the most significant. But in relation to the prime minister, if we can go back to that slide, you're still seeing a 27 percentage point difference between the two leaders after 11 years for Modi in government.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to say, that initial 10 minutes of our discussion, if somebody would not look at the data, the person is likely to understand as if Modi's popularity has collapsed to something low and Rahul Gandhi has become a new leader of this country with more ratings than Narendra Modi. But that is not true. I mean, sometimes I genuinely believe that, that I am being kind of a bit overcritical of sorts. Whenever discussing Prime Minister's number, maybe the expectation, even as a pollster, is like that he will get.
Which is why I wanted to clarify that Modi's own numbers, the NDA's own numbers, may have shown some dip, but vis-a-vis Rahul Gandhi, there's a 27 percentage point lead. There's an interesting question on the India bloc figure, because 63% of your respondents said that the India bloc should continue. We have Binu Philip asking us, is there a region-wise breakup of the 63%? This, I think, is interesting because, it's an uneven existence or relevance of the India bloc. I don't know if that's too sort of micro-granular, but if you have a response to that.
India, and none of the region is showing less than 55% support for the India bloc to continue. Doesn't mean that they are going to vote for India bloc, but that in essence is the emotion of the common man that India needs a stronger opposition. With a stronger opposition, governments are supposed to work better. There is more answerability, there is more aggression in the opposition, and that's what keeps the government on the toes, and they want that kind of pressure on the government. So yes, the common Indians want the government to work and want a strong government and even stronger opposition. Let me phrase it that way.
Yeah. So I want to go on to some of the other questions you posed on the performance of the Modi government. You asked what is the biggest achievement of the Modi government. We'll come to the best suited to succeed Modi. Yeah, here. The Ram Mandir. Now, it wasn't open. So correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know whether you were surprised by this. The Ram Mandir was last year. We are now in 2025.
I was expecting.
I would have thought it would be Operation Sindoor.
No. That's what I'm saying. That somewhere in this entire thing, that whatever we witnessed in the last few months, it seems like that they won the war, but they lost the war on narrative. Not just on the international diplomatic side, but even the internal domestic politics side. The narrative was lost. I think that's the best way to put the things in perspective. Ram Mandir is still at the number one thing because Operation Sindoor could not gain that kind of traction which ideally it should have got.
It's so surprising because according to me, it is one of the most devastating military actions in terms of the pain it was able to inflict. The fact that inside Pakistan's Punjab, terror bases were targeted. Pakistan's air bases were, severely damaged. It is really surprising, and it shows you how important narrative is, not just on the global stage, but even on your own stage at home. Unemployment. We'll come to the economy as a separate section. It's also interesting that GST reforms are here. And clearly, someone in the Modi government is now taking this seriously, in particular in the context of Trump tariffs. But before these reforms, because they've only come in the last few hours, you asked what is the single biggest failure of the government, and an overwhelming number of people said unemployment. Now, this is not an atypical answer, by the way, for any survey, is it?
It's not. And in fact, we also asked a one straightaway question on how serious the issue of unemployment is. Not only asking verbatim what is the biggest failure. Almost 70% said that it is extremely serious. Now, so it's not just about to extend that, okay, quantitatively speaking, how many people are saying, but qualitatively speaking as well, people at large, when I do a debriefing with my researchers, many of them, they tell us that, it's a consistently, not just in the Bimaru states as such, what the term is used for, but it is across India as such, that so far it is, people are considering as a jobless growth. Somehow that thing is setting in. And no matter how remarkable this economy is growing or looking like, what the GDP number says. And by the way, the day the numbers were out, one of the BJP leaders, he did send me on my direct message 10-15 infographics on different economic numbers, as they say, that since you are talking about economic stress, these are the numbers. And I was at pains to explain it to me that yes, I am not an economist. I mean, you can give me these numbers. These numbers look good. It's fine. I mean, nobody is denying their number, but there is some disconnect somewhere, because if 2/3 of the households are saying that they are finding it difficult to run the kitchen, despite that we are running world's largest feed food program for 800 million people, and if despite of that, people are saying that jobs are not there and they are finding it difficult, that means, yes, we are growing as an economy, but there is some disconnect. And immediately after that, I remember Prime Minister went on, and not because of MOTN, but largely because of the second stage of reforms, that that entrepreneurship should be in the focus, because jobs are not there, and it's only because of the SMEs the jobs can be increased. So we need reforms. We absolutely need reforms, and because of this tariffs, Barkha, I think everybody is understanding, saying that this is an opportunity actually now. We आपदा में अवसर यही है कि we go for that big ticket reforms. We break free of the mold, make the SMEs and first time entrepreneurs the flow of working capital and the capex should be made easily available for them, no matter how small the enterprise is. Otherwise, we know in this country, me or you or anybody who is a first generation entrepreneur, Barkha, how difficult it is to run an enterprise, particularly for the SMEs. So I think this is all directing in the same direction. People are, let me say this thing upfront. When we ask people, what is your problem? How is your life? When they say this is our problem, they want to bring it to your notice, to the media's notice, to the government notice. That doesn't really mean that they are completely fed up, or they see no hope for the future, or they are saying we are going to change the government. And not like
people have graded responses.
We have exactly graded and well nuanced responses. They just don't say unemployment. They give a reason for that. They tell personal stories for that. कि हमारा भतीजा है, उसको 5 साल से खाली पड़ा है, उसको नौकरी नहीं मिल रहा है.
I actually want to talk about the economy in a completely separate section, because there's a lot more data on it. Just 2 more political questions that looked really interesting to me. One was, who after Modi? Not because we are at any point where we're talking about a BJP after Modi. In fact, there's all chances that Modi will be the candidate even in 2029. But as an academic and a political student, it's always an interesting question, because if you look at the increase in popularity of Amit Shah now leading, even in 24 he was leading, but his numbers have improved. It is not Yogi Adityanath, even though Yogi Adityanath scores as the best performing chief minister. How do you look at this figure?
Yogi Adityanath's number are largely coming because it's an all India poll construct. So proportion to the population, the samples are in the frame. His names do come big number because from the Uttar Pradesh, he is a popular chief minister over there. No doubt that gives him biggest kind of thing. He also scores much better in states like Madhya Pradesh or states like in Rajasthan or Himachal. You know, the basically BJP's core North Indian states. But the moment you go to West India, East India, and even down south, Amit Shah scores much better. I think that has largely to do with Amit Shah having the home state in Gujarat and impact in Maharashtra. Or say, for example, he has been campaigning always a lot for the last 10 years in West Bengal and like in Assam and everywhere. I think the problem here is that Yogi Adityanath's own number are having a huge weightage of Uttar Pradesh and some of other adjoining states, while Amit Shah's number are more evenly spread out. I think that's where his cumulative number come higher on
but in any case, at the moment, this is an academic question, right? This is a purely academic question. Like the next question, which created so much of a kerfuffle when Mohan Bhagwat, the RSS chief, spoke about 75 being an age appropriate to retire. And more recently, he actually said he himself doesn't think he needs to retire. Some people saw that as a bait to the Prime Minister. I don't think anyone who's serious about politics thinks that Modi is going to retire when he turns 75. But yet this question was interesting. An overwhelming number of your respondents did feel, yeah, 75. They didn't say it in the context of any individual. But how do you read this slide?
Barkha, we have discussed this, that every time I look at the numbers which come back from I am humbled. I am humbled more than previous round, because all the progressive questions, when you ask, you would have realized that people give a non-partisan answer. Across the party line, you get nation thinking in one direction on many of the issues, and which surprises me most of the time. That even though Narendra Modi is the number one leader, most popular leader, if I ask them that Modi should retire, probably majority of the BJP voters will say no. Probably, I'm just guessing. I should have asked probably that as well. Yeah. But the idea that politicians, particularly public in public sphere, they continue on and on and on. So that is something which doesn't click with particularly the younger generation. And now we have got a generation, 80% of our voter is born after the 1971 war. In that way. So a lot of public narrative, and particularly the youngsters, they feel that the youngsters should be getting a chance. That's where I think it is coming from. And and not only this, if you will talk about majority of the reforms, one nation, one election, you will see similar kind of pattern emerging, people saying and approving those kind of things in a very, very non-partisan way.
Absolutely. I didn't see this as a Modi specific question at all, but as a general principle of talking point. अरे young लोगों को आना चाहिए राजनीति में, हाँ जरूर आना चाहिए. अरे ये जो 75 के हैं इनको जाना चाहिए, should they make way? It's a generally progressive thought.
The reaction of a Congress voter is exactly the same in Rajasthan, for that matter, where Sachin Pilot was pushed aside to keep Ashok Gehlot at bay.
Correct. It's a strictly general point. I completely agree with that. Now I want to turn to a very interesting column that you have written on the India Today website, and you have called it 7 Signals to the Modi government. And you make the argument, as you're making now, that brand Modi holds firm, but there are some things that the voter is trying to say to the government, and most of them have to do with the economy, with livelihood. And so I want to turn our attention to these figures. One of the very interesting comparative points of data that you put forth is how the Modi government has fared on the economy. And while you say that 48% are still saying, outstanding, when you compare it, you had a question where you would do a comparison between who handled it better, Narendra Modi or Manmohan Singh, right? And in that, the numbers of those who said Modi handled it better were higher than they are today, right? They fell from 52 to 44.6%, while Manmohan Singh's numbers actually increased. So talk a little bit about this.
So there are multiple things at play in this one. I mean, obviously, Manmohan Singh is remembered more fondly than anybody would have expected that he would be remembered, and he was right and prophetic that history would be kind to him, kinder to him. He said that, and I think he was right on that. Having said that, yes, there are issues of economic stress which are contributing to this factor. There is also a factor that, apart from unemployment and price rise, which was there for a long time, and so on and so forth. But I think there is something for the BJP to look into very keenly, is that every time the public comes up with some important thing, their representatives come up with something which is inexplainable. I mean, did you see the video of Uttar Pradesh power minister where public was complaining bijli cut gaya and he starts saying Jai Shri Ram?
Yeah,
I
saw that. Yeah,
that is the kind of, and it is relatable. I'm telling you why. Because these are the public reaction is not really knee-jerk. That's what I have learned in this field. It's a very cumulative thing. It adds up, piles up, keep on piling up. And one fine day it reaches a tipping point, and then you say, oh, where did it come from? And I think a lot is happening because of a lot of public concerns which it is putting forward is not really discussed or appreciated by the representatives of the government. For example, 4 days in the show, from across the platforms, within India Today group, and they've got multiple platforms, and so many of BJP spokies and everybody came across. Not a single point of time any spokesperson said, we appreciate that situation and government will work.
Correct.
And now
because because there's another data point, right? 60% say, as you write and find out, that it is difficult to manage family and household budgets. And there's another really important data point. You address the Adani Ambani narrative, the point of attack by the opposition. 46% say NDA policies have benefited big business, right? And then I'm going to join another point here. 47% say government has failed to curb corruption, while 45% say it has succeeded. Now, I want you to join the dots between these 4 data points. I'll read them once again. You used to do a comparison between Modi and Manmohan, who handled the economy better. And Modi's numbers were at about 52%, and now they're down to 44.6%. This is before the GST reform announcement. I must make that clarification. 60% say difficult to manage family and household budgets. 46% say NDA policies have benefited big business, not any particular business house, but big business. And 47% say government has failed to curb corruption, while 45% say it has succeeded. Now, let's talk about this. This is where you believe the government needs to pay attention to these signals.
Absolutely. They need to pay attention to these signals, and rather than denying, they need to appreciate these sentiment, these emotions. What happens, Barkha, is that, as I said earlier, that none of these things are knee-jerks. People have a cumulative way of forming their opinion.
So can I read out one audience comment from Prasad?
Yeah.
Barkha, it's one thing to look at GDP, important because we're at 7.8% in this recently released figures. It's one thing to look at GDP, inflation, job creation data, but in reality, we all feel it. We feel when the economy is doing well versus when it's not doing this well. I haven't felt that good in the last 5 years. And
Exactly.
a lot of people are saying that to you. So I want to bring up that number again. If we can bring up those numbers on the banners, I'm just going to try and find them. 60% say it's difficult to manage family and household budget. That's a big number of people.
Big number. Absolutely. That's a big number. It should be concerning people. And those 60% are not saying that this government is failure or we don't like Mr. Modi and we want him to be replaced.
Correct.
There are two kinds of, the funny thing is everybody is making a wrong set of inferences from the data. On the BJP side, they are all completely in denial. No, 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 no. Our government, these are the data. You are quoting
That's
some
right.
data which
That's
is
right.
like that. And the opposition is like, oh, this means that 60% voters are now going to vote for the Congress. No,
Yeah.
none of both the things are true. Number one, it's a cumulative impact process. When people watch bridges getting down, potholes on the roads, newly constructed flyovers caving in, and
Yeah.
many such infrastructure projects getting into difficulties, people do feel that something is not adding up. Okay.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
people see one or the two business houses name in every nook and corner, every airport that they are going in, they start feeling like that, okay, one or two are getting out of proportion, something which is like not really getting in. Now, when people are facing issues, in contrast, they start feeling like that the gap between rich and poor is increasing. And they
Yeah.
feel like that the government is standing on the richest side. Now, this is the feeling. All right.
Yeah.
That's what they feel like. There are two ways of dealing this. You can either deny this, say this is all bunkum, nothing of this sort of is happening, and give me 100 sets of economic set and data and everything, which I will accept because these are data. I mean, I will never say that your data is wrong and my data is correct, but I'm expecting the same professional courtesy. The thing is, one has to not just look into the hard data of economics, one has to also look into the perception, what the public is feeling, what it is looking at. And if the public is looking at that cumulatively, a lot many things are adding up, and they are not just like one of your audience just
viewers
commented that viewers that commented that I'm not feeling well for the last 5 years.
And I think you also find that there isn't that much optimism that their lives are going to get better economically.
That's the point. They haven't lost hope. That's what I'm trying to make a line, that even after that, huge majority of them say that no, the future is good. When they look around the things, they say India is moving along. One question where we ask on a daily basis, Barkha, the question is, what do you think about India today? Country is moving along, not my life. Country and me both are moving in the right direction. Well, I am moving in the right direction, but country is moving in the wrong direction.
But look at this. More than 1/3 of people, your respondents, expected their incomes to stagnate.
Income to stagnate or fear a decline. But when you talk about that over the next 5 years, do you feel that life will become better? Things will become better? We are perennially an optimistic society. They look at the things in the bigger picture. Sometimes they even look at things that, okay, probably my generation is going to suffer, but it is going to become better for my kids. Having said that, what I am simply trying to tell a lot many friends on the opposition, on the ruling side, that see, people are telling you what are the problems that they are facing. That is their perception, and they are
this narrative about what Rahul Gandhi once called the suit boot ki sarkar, this narrative that big business, it's sticking.
It's sticking in. And it should be
if we can bring that on the banner, that a considerable number of people believe that that big business is benefiting from NDA policies.
Exactly.
I think it's 46%. Let me just pull up the figure there. I think it's about, it's 46%. NDA policies have benefited big business the most. I think Yashwant is frozen there, and I'm sure he'll rejoin in just a moment. We are looking at the See Voter Mood of the Nation survey. I'm just going to wait for Yashwant to rejoin. But if you have just joined us, some of the data here is very, very interesting. And I want to particularly, we were talking about the economy. So the See Voter Mood of the Nation survey has routinely asked, while a large number of people, as you see on your screen, say that the handling has been outstanding, the See Voter Mood of the Nation survey has routinely asked whether Manmohan Singh handled it better or Prime Minister Modi did. And in that, there has been somewhat of a dip. Those numbers were at 52% for Prime Minister Modi. They're now down to 44.6%. But the real kicker is in this number. 60% say it is difficult to manage family and household budgets. Now, Rahul Gandhi had once famously used the word suit boot ki sarkar to take a jibe at the Modi government, and that allegation in a different form is sticking. 46% say that NDA policies have benefited big business the most. Okay, Yashwant, you're back. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think some internet.
And there we lost you on cue again. Yashwant is traveling. I'm going to keep going through the figures. If we could take this graphic off and just go through some of the other numbers now, because 47% also say that the government has failed to curb corruption. And this number is a really important political talking point as well, because remember, the Prime Minister's famous line used to be, "Now khaunga na khane dunga." And this is a very almost evenly divided public response. 45% saying that the government has succeeded in curbing corruption, and 47% saying that it hasn't. Okay, Yashwant, you're back. I'm hoping that the numbers will stick.
Just in case if you are not getting it, but it's okay. Yeah,
go ahead.
So what you were saying, I will take a continuation from that. So yes, these are all.
You were saying both sides are misreading. Okay, just mute Yashwant till I ask my questions. You're saying both sides are misreading the data and drawing big political conclusions, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. The government can't afford to ignore these data points, but the opposition is also drawing big conclusions from it. Go ahead.
Say that these numbers are not, they don't matter. You know, the macro and microeconomic numbers are something different. GDP and the forex reserve and everything in between is doing great. People do understand even the tariff. If you go into those side of the questions, even on the tariff, people are very clear. People are aware. The best part of these numbers is, earlier I would have said, Barkha, that questions of defense, question of macroeconomics, these are the things which are only things which we should be asking the experts. And common man knows nothing. I'm sorry, here is the truth. People know. They may not know anything. They may not know too much. But they at least know, and they are aware what is going to affect their own individual life and what is going to affect the country at large, where the direction which they are doing, and within their own sense of understanding these things, they do have an opinion. So you cannot get away by thrashing that opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. Number one, things for the government to understand. Things for the opposition to understand. Don't get overexcited. Because the fact is, even after these many issues and whatever thing is, the trustworthiness of brand Modi is still intact. The bench strength or the organizational strength of the BJP is still way ahead of the Congress, and there is a 1:2 ratio between popularity of Rahul Gandhi and Narendra Modi, and there is also a 1:2 ratio of 20% baseline of Congress vote base and 40% baseline of the BJP vote base. So there is that kind of a gap is not something which can be purged overnight. It cannot swing overnight because of a simple factor, Barkha, that Mr. keeps on attacking BJP, the institution, government, the institution at large, and problems that people are facing, pointing them out. He is doing well. But I don't know why, the moment he confuses that by with his own set of how to go about the thing, and he completely changes that into a direct personal attack on Prime Minister Modi. That's where things go wrong. You know, I think,
and I will come to how those numbers are playing out in your projections for if elections were held today. But I want to first deal with a challenge that the government didn't factor in. Donald Trump was not meant to present this challenge. Geopolitically, it's had the government's energies distracted. Economically, the government will have to find a way to respond to it. Yet, this is the one point on which, Yashwant, not this graphic, could we have the numbers on the Trump tariffs? On this particular issue, the country is overwhelmingly with him. They recognize it to be a serious issue. 63% say that they are worried, but they do not think that there should be any compromise. The majority of people believe that India should not bend. And I think there's a 70% number. Let me actually try and pull it out here, that India must not stop buying Russian oil because it's about sovereignty. Go ahead, Yashwant.
That's part of it. They understand it. I mean, you don't need an economist to make them understand it. Thing is that they are discussing on the street. They are discussing on the chopals and panchayats everywhere. I mean, the way that an average Indian understands right now the situation or the impact or how should India go, you will be amazed and humbled, Barkha, the way people talk and they give reasons. Please remember, we simply do not ask questions in a yes, no, can't say format. People give their opinion and they give reasons why we should be doing that. And that humbles me every time. And I was watching your interview with Piers Morgan, if I'm not wrong. And what you said actually is being echoed in all the cities and the kasbahs of India, that we cannot let anybody bully us. Simple.
Absolutely, and that's what I was trying to explain to Piers Morgan, that you all are getting into some technical debate about trade and this and that. For India, this is about self-respect. Respect us, treat us as an equal. We are not your supplicants. You cannot bully us. That's what it's about.
You can't bully us. One thing that you can't bully us, number one. Number two, for all the diplomats sitting in any Western capital right now, and if they are watching your show, Barkha, let me tell them an easy concept called democracy, and electoral democracy. No matter who comes to power in India, be it Mr. Narendra Modi, be it Mr. Rahul Gandhi or any third person, any person who is sitting as the Prime Minister cannot go against the public emotion. That's the fact, because nobody wants to commit an electoral harakiri by going against the public emotion. And if the public emotion is of standing up to the bully, then the person has to stand up to the bully. That's the bottom line.
I totally agree with you. And, we had this extraordinary statement from Putin, of all people, yesterday, saying you cannot talk to India like that. And look at your finding. If US increases political support to Pakistan, which is happening for a multitude of reasons, including Trump's business interests, a majority of respondents recommend leaning on traditional allies like Russia. The fact is that there is a strong anti-America sentiment right now.
Not only strong anti-America sentiment, but we also asked during the Operation Sindoor crisis, right after the ceasefire announcement, there was a question that we asked that whom should we trust more in the time of crisis? Should we trust Russia more than America? It was 68%. Should we trust America more than Russia? It was 13%, 1-3. So what does this tell you, Barkha? That people at large, they have an institutional memory, not just up to the 71 war, but as you clearly and very rightly mentioned in your interview with Piers Morgan, that 200 years of colonial history. We are not forgetting that. We do not like to be dictated by anyone. And this is a non-partisan issue. That's the beauty of Indian democracy, that on issues like these, on issues of national interest, issues of national importance, we somehow end up speaking in the same voice. And that is our strength. And that is what the West needs to understand. That's what the America needs to understand. It's not the India of yesteryears or something like that, that for any reason you would say something and the world would get bullied. Maybe the European countries are getting bullied, but trust me, I genuinely believe when any European leader looks at the India's stand, they feel like at least somebody is taking a stand.
Absolutely.
That's what
One of the things Piers Morgan kept saying in his show was, unexpectedly India, somebody else said to me the other day, why couldn't India just do this? And there's this lack of understanding that there's self-respect and sovereignty involved. at the heart of this. I want to end with the key question: who would win if elections were held today? And as we transition to those numbers, Yashwant, I want you to explain this to me. We have spent all of this time talking about how brand Modi holds firm, but people are genuinely concerned about the economy in particular. And there are these signals that people are sending to the Modi government, right? And yet, when we look at these numbers, which are on our screen now, you have found that if elections were held today, the NDA would improve and the India bloc would decline. Not dramatically, but would look, the numbers are on your screen, 324 to 208. How do we understand this? If there are some dip, some sort of points of drop in approval ratings, in handling of the economy, how do we understand this improved performance, projected improved performance from the actual Lok Sabha result of 2024?
But I think if you compare with 2024 elections, it looks like improving. If you compare it with our MOTN 6 months back, it's a drop. And it's a 20-seat drop and vote share drop as well. And now that is critical to understand, because that high of January came after them sweeping Maharashtra, Haryana, sweeping Jammu region of Jammu and Kashmir. And that reversed the feeling of the things that they lost during the Lok Sabha elections. Now, ideally speaking, the high that they touched in January after Maharashtra election results, after Operation Sindoor, it should have gone up, not gone down, right? I mean, that's what the what conventional wisdom of polling or watching, observing politics will tell us. But it has gone down. Actually, from January, February to now, it's almost like 20 seats down. Okay, so it's compared to 24 Lok Sabha, it's up, but compared to 6 months back, it is down. And that should that in spite and despite of Operation Sindoor, it has not gone up. But the only reason, as I mentioned in my column in India Today, the way I see it, the biggest wall between different kind of disappointments and NDA's performance is nothing but Prime Minister Modi's personal trustworthiness, which remains intact.
So
Even
Modi is, since you said he's the wall, Modi is like the ever dependable Rahul Dravid. I mean, it's not an exact metaphor, because many people may want a Virat Kohli or a Dhoni comparison. I'm only doing it in terms of the steadiness or the rock solidness that is shielding the BJP or the NDA from anti-incumbency.
Absolutely, yes. That's the shortest possible answer, because I do not see any other reason, which would explain that. And as I said in a previous section, Barkha, that I also, looking at the current campaign of Rahul Gandhi on SIR and vote chori and everything, the day we were airing the MOTN numbers on India Today, and as I was speaking in the prime time and saying that the problem is that Rahul Gandhi's number will pick up as long as he will stick to the institutional attack and against the government or the election commission and everything in between. But the moment he will decide to turn the target on Prime Minister Modi personally, this might start backfiring. And precisely at that point of time, somebody sent an that official Congress handles thing where they had put Modi's mugshot as vote chore. Now, from Chaukidar Chor hai to Narendra surrender to vote chore, I think this is something, looking at these numbers, for the opposition to understand that personally attacking Prime Minister Modi or his mother for that matter, it's not going to help. It's electorally going to backfire. And he is a very, very smart politician. Otherwise, he wouldn't be 50% plus after 11 years in being in power. If you will give him a full toss, even Rahul Dravid will put it out of the park. No matter how safeguarded he is playing, known to play safeguarding. This guy is known to play on the front foot whenever the need arises. So be careful on that. And that's where they are unable to understand right now.
So before we end, we did some. Could we just mute Yashwant for half a second? We did some strictly unscientific polling on our Mojo Story platform. A health warning. This has no methodology. This has no granular data. This is simply a question on our channel, and we have no breakup available of the affiliations, the background of people who vote. But we did say, just like Yashwant says, who would win if Lok Sabha elections were held today, and 59% said NDA to 41% of India bloc. These are our respondents. We also asked about Trump tariffs, and if we can move to that slide now. Again, this is just Mojo Story having some fun. 93%, I was looking at this figure and I was really taken aback by it. Must not compromise but continue negotiations. 93% of our respondents to 7% who feel otherwise, right? So Yashwant, this is not C voter, not mood of the nation. This is just us having a little bit of unscientific fun, but I wanted to also share it with you. Giving you your last words on your own poll, the lessons and the warnings for both sides, for NDA and opposition. Closing comment to you.
I think the biggest lesson for the NDA is basically to appreciate the concerns rather than being in denial. Being in denial doesn't help. I mean, and that also starts with your spokespersons, because the spokespersons are considered the extension of what the government is doing or Prime Minister is saying. So if you will in aggression is fine. A spokesperson should be aggressive to defend the government, but that doesn't mean that you have to deny and disapprove the data every time, which is not suiting you. There is a better way of handling it, that saying that we appreciate the situation, number one. Number two, for the opposition, accept the fact, just like the BJP has to accept that people have problems. Not everything is rosy and pinky. Opposition has to accept the Prime Minister is popular. A huge population still feels he is trustworthy. So any personal attack on the Prime Minister is sure short way of backfiring your own mission. So that's the two things for both the ends. I mean, we'll keep on looking at the numbers and another. And by the way, this is 23rd year of our MOT and exercise, Barkha. We never knew how time flies. 46th edition of 23rd year. So that's a long trend line of going around and watching what the public is saying. And yes, 23 years of this has humbled every time. And I still believe that majority of this country believes that democracy is important, and democracy is healthy only because people believe that democracy is in danger.
Well, we leave it there. That's an amazing trend line. So congratulations to you for another successful edition of the Mood of the Nation poll done by C Voter in India Today. By the way, there's a lot of other data on the states that we haven't had a chance to discuss today. We're going to do a separate program on that very soon, just as soon as we can get a window from your busy schedule. Thank you, Yashwant Deshmukh. Always a pleasure. Take care and see you soon. Thank you. Bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.